When it comes to the legends of schlock cinema, there are names everybody knows. At this point, most casual film buffs can name-check Roger Corman and Ed Wood, Mystery Science Theater fans are aware of the iconoclastic Coleman Francis, and vintage erotica fans still celebrate the career of one Doris Wishman. But one name that often gets overlooked is Al Adamson, who was probably the last of the great drive-in hucksters, and whose 1963 to 1985 career nicely bridged the gap between the Sam Arkoff and Jason Voorhees eras of low-budget indie genre movies. Adamson directed and/or produced a slew of films with titles like Dracula vs. Frankenstein, The Blood of Ghastly Horror, Psycho a Go-Go, and Blazing Stewardesses. But he also had a canny eye for undiscovered gems, aka unlikely potential profits in his own right, and in 1970 he thought he'd hit pay dirt when he happened upon the purchase of rights to a bizarre 1956 feature from the Philippines called Tagani. Well, actually, it was called Kararang Bato, a star vehicle for one-time Philippine superstar Jesus Rampo. Tagani was the title given to its barely released English-language dubbed version. It's a Stone Age action-adventure movie in which brave heroes of a tribe battle a clan of vampire cavemen. Yeah, how about that? I mean, yeah, they fight other monsters and stuff, but still, vampire cavemen. Problem facing Adamson was, Filipino action movies didn't have the same exotic cash in the US as, say, Japanese monster movies. And besides that, by 1970, even the drive-ins were demanding their movies be in color. Tagani was in black and white. How would he salvage the investment? Well, Adamson went out and shot new footage himself, then chopped bits and pieces out of some other low-end movies he either owned or were in the public domain at the time, chiefly the original 1 Million Years BC, The Wizard of Mars, and War of the Satellites, among others, and remixed all of this with the caveman versus monster stuff that drew him to Tagani in the first place. And so, in 1970, all that came together as
The Horror of the Blood Monsters.
Our story, the planet Earth, or at least this one dark alley on the planet Earth, is under attack by an outbreak of real-life vampires. Somehow, NASA has determined that vampirism actually originated from a recently discovered far-off planet, and has dispatched an astronaut team led by the legendary but now very, very tired John Carradine to investigate and neutralize the bloodsucker threat. Oh, and it's actually never spelled out that this is why they're going to the planet, since the vampire outbreak thing doesn't really come up again, and it feels like maybe the vampires on Earth were like a last-minute addition among all the other last-minute additions, but you know what? It still makes more sense than Prometheus did.
The infected blood of the vampire was carried to Earth millions of years ago by the Tibetan vampire men of a distant galaxy far beyond this solar system.
Oh, and because drive-ins were also demanding sex scenes, one of the NASA guys borrows some technology to take home and mess around with his lady friend.
And, blue. Right now, I'd like some relaxation. In any color.
Wow, that is the least sexy thing I've ever seen. Anyway, the astronauts reach the planet and discover that it's inhabited by Stone Age humanoids. Yup, this is how we're gonna get the Tagani footage into this train wreck. Adamson took the astronaut actors to Bronson Canyon, the backdrop to more low-budget sci-fi movies and TV shows than pretty much any other single location on the planet, and shot black and white footage of them wandering around, occasionally interacting with one or two Asian or Filipino-looking co-stars, but mostly reacting to stuff happening off-screen, which he would then cut together with the Tagani footage to give the impression that our quote-unquote heroes were observing the trials and tribulations of these newly discovered alien tribesmen. But how'd they get around the theaters only want color issue? Well, you're looking at it. And if you don't see it yet, the vampire at the beginning actually explains it.
The strange chromatic radiations of deep, dark space have created many ghastly mutations while they turn the air and everything in it into a one-colored mass of yellow, green, blue, or blood red.
Chromatic radiation. Translation, they just randomly tinted the old black and white footage and the new black and white footage red, blue, green, or yellow from scene to scene on the premise that, well, the planet probably has a weird atmosphere and it does that. So yes, Horror of the Blood Monsters was released to theaters in color, and yet most of it was still in monochrome. You know, in a way I'm glad it takes so long to explain how this happened, because beyond that there's nothing other to say than, look at this thing. Are you seeing this?
They look like some kind of prehistoric monsters.
Seriously, are you seeing this? What's great is, if you go by the poster, these lobster men are the blood monsters. keep in mind, all this insanity with the cave people is the reason they went to all the extra effort to make this movie. People paid money to see this. Actual money. And not even on TV. You had to go somewhere to watch this.
Dr. Reining, are you all right?
All right. I'm all right. Leave me alone.
I got nothing, guys. I got nothing for that either.
It wasn't enough for them, merely having the knowledge of such weapons. They had to use them. I have no doubt we'll be equally brilliant one day.
So, yeah, that's Horror of the Blood Monsters. Adamson would make somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 more films after this, but sadly, his story didn't have a happy ending. He was actually murdered in 1995 by a contractor who'd been hired to remodel his home, and the body was discovered entombed under his own whirlpool. That's kinda depressing, actually. Really wish that didn't have to be the capper on this one. Huh. And so, Schlocktober comes to an end for another year. Hope everyone had fun. I know I did. I'm Bob, and that's the big picture.